The Kenya Education Staff Institute, KESI, a semi-autonomous capacity-building government agency of the Ministry of Education, has a core mandate of promoting and carrying on the work of management development for institutions of learning nationally.
KESI was established in 1981 to build the capacity of education managers. We are now 30 years old, and we have been building the capacities of head teachers, education officers, quality assurance officers, school management committees, district education officers, and policymakers. And the aim is basically to empower them and equip them with the tools to become better managers and to effectively manage the resources at their disposal. This particular video specifically targets our secondary schools and primary schools. In the next phase, we are going to target the education officers and quality assurance officers.
Good management development for prosperity involves integrity and good governance. But what is integrity? And what is good governance?
Integrity really is the sum total of the positive attributes that we want to see, especially in people who are in offices of accountability. How have you acted when scrutiny is on you? And how have you acted when there is no scrutiny on you? And when you do something, when you are an officer in an institution, are you doing it simply because the rules require you to do that? Or you will do it because there are certain values, there are certain things that drive you and that make you commit that this, as a citizen or as a person, I would like to show myself this way.
Integrity is the lifeblood, if you may, the mother's milk of human development and civilization. History has demonstrated times without number that when integrity is the touchstone of a society's way of doing things, its politics is right, its economy is right, and its social activities are also right. In a nutshell, integrity is the glue that puts society together for its long-term health.
When you talk about integrity, to be integrous is a way, should be a way of life. It should not be seen like a foreign thing which should be imparted to the person. What we need to do is to bring it out from every person, because if you have no integrity, you have no business actually being a part of community and society, because you lose integrity, you cannot be trusted. You lose trust, then there is nobody, well, it doesn't matter whether you have money or not, people don't trust you. Means that they don't have confidence in you.
We need, of course, that character, that personal integrity of knowing the right and wrong, you know, what should be done and what shouldn't be done, and being able to draw the line and say, sorry, you are not crossing here, and being able to apply the rules across the board and not be selective. And that is what integrity is about. It's simply acting in a consistent and predictable manner.
A person who has no integrity but has acquired what the Nigerians used to call book learning is no better than a chimpanzee with AK-47 in his or her hands, and that is a dangerous thing to even contemplate.
Governance is a set of processes, policies, laws and institutions affecting the way a country, institution, society, etc. is directed, administered or controlled. Good or fair governance implies that mechanisms function in a way that respects the rights and interests of the stakeholders in a spirit of democracy. It promotes accountability and strengthens confidence in government or management administration. There is growing recognition of the link between good governance and successful development over time.
We must move ahead as citizens, use the principle in the new constitution, even before all the laws come in, and begin to show the spirit of them. When we talk about equity, begin to demonstrate it in what we are doing now. when we talk about governance, begin to show it in our offices. So there is hope, because there is a framework for it. And I think we are tired of mediocrity. So it is time to take it to another level.
Madam Principal, yes. As I was telling you, you know you have all the authority to overturn the committee's decision.
Mr. Anania, let us not go back to that. I have already explained to you that there is a tender committee in this school, and it comprises of teachers. The day the tender box was being opened, all the interested parties were invited. So, in all fairness, let the tender go to the best bidder. Okay, Mr. Anania?
Do you trust those teachers? You trust them? Let me tell you one thing. Even the person who won this tender we are talking about must have done this to the former principal. Don't be naive, madam. You know the rule here is, scratch my back and I scratch yours. Just a moment. Here, take this. And you know what? After this, more will follow.
Mr. Anania, I want to repeat this. I am a teacher. I came here to teach, not to corrupt morals. The decision of the tender committee is final, and the person who won the tender supplies the school. Don't forget, I have the whole conversation on my phone.
Wait, madam. Just a moment.
Without going on so much, take your money and get out of my office.
Let's forget about that. If this happens,
and regulation. Mr. Anania, okay. Get out of my office.
Let's forget this happens.
Corruption, as defined by Transparency International, TI Kenya, is the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. It is any act done with the intention of giving one party unfair advantage over others. This is done by way of a successful transfer of money, material, favor or power unlawfully to an individual or group. Lack of integrity and good governance in any organization opens avenues for corruption to thrive.
We know that the funds are not managed as well as they should be. We know that through wastage, we know that through corruption and unethical behavior, monies that ought to go into things that will improve the quality of education in the classroom, in the school environment, is enriching a few unscrupulous individuals. One of the things that we must begin to do as a people and as a country, if you are a school headmaster, the question that you must ask, how am I discharging my duties? Is it right that when I'm buying a box of chalk and it costs 350 shillings, I create an environment where the procurement process is so clean, but I buy the box of chalk at 1,000 Kenya shillings? Who am I cheating? Am I cheating this generation and my child and the country? And if you think about God, is it right to steal? Because sometimes we think theft is the very clear, but many of us are engaged in activities that are truly theft because we are reaping where we have not sown.
According to Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, the types of corruption include grand corruption, which is a type of corruption perpetrated by senior officials or individuals both in the public and private sector in relatively senior positions. It involves paying an officer kickbacks of huge sums of money, for example, 1 million shillings, to facilitate favorable review of a tender application. Petty corruption is most common and widely practiced. It involves the payment of small amounts of money or other gifts to either speed up state functions that are actually already a right of the taxpayer, or to avoid legal sanctions for minor infractions of the law, such as paying some money to facilitate admission of a student to a particular school. Looting is a corruption that involves individuals or companies being paid huge sums of money by the state for goods or services that are never delivered. Bribery is an act of giving, receiving, or soliciting an item to influence the actions of a person in charge. For example, when a teacher pays a principal or an education officer to get a promotion.
I'm told that corruption now even manifests itself in the examination process. I'm told that people buy examination papers. How unfortunate. I'm told that when they are building schools nowadays, they even reduce the sizes of windows. I'm told that is an avenue of corruption. I'm told that today you order 5,000 books and they deliver only 500 and you claim that they have been lost. I'm told that today you ask for goods to be supplied and they are not supplied, but you claim that you received them and that they have been consumed. I'm told that when head teachers, some of them are building something in the school, they are also building their private houses. I'm told that when they are running a school, they are also running their private schools. There is no shortage of avenues. And all these are true. It is not fiction. And we are saying that is simply because sometimes we find head teachers, sometimes we find members of the board of governors or members of school committees entering into unholy alliances for the purposes of undermining education. I'm told that even in the area of remedial teaching, sometimes remedial teaching is mainstreamed into teaching, and people are required to pay money whether they like it or not. They pay money willy-nilly, as we used to say, for the sake of lining the pockets of unscrupulous head teachers. How sad, because the corrupt are as creative as the innovators of old. They always discover new ways of scheming things from the society. How sad, how sad, how sad.
The main institutions that deal with integrity issues in Kenya are the Kenya National Audit Office, KENAO, Efficiency Monitoring Unit, EMU, the Criminal Investigation Department, CID, KACC, Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, as a public body, was established under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act of 2003. It is the main agency with a statutory mandate to fight corruption in Kenya. Its functions include investigating corrupt conduct and activities, prevent the occurrence of corrupt practices, advise public institutions on how to fight corruption, educate the public on the dangers of corruption, enlist and foster public support in fighting corruption and economic crime, institute civil cases in court for compensation or recovery of public property and for the forfeiture of illegally acquired wealth. The main factors that lead to corruption and poor governance, according to Transparency International TI Kenya 2005, include political patronage that compromises ethics, breakdown of societal values such as honesty, truthfulness, faithfulness, integrity, etc., poor enforcement of the law, weak management systems, misuse of power, lack of skills in the relevant areas of management, lack of professional integrity, transparency, and accountability. KACC notes that the major effects of corruption are poor infrastructure, increased cost of living, increased poverty, shoddy work and stalled projects, poor quality of education leading to poor performance, freezing of grants by the donors, unemployment, and insecurity, just to name a few. On the other hand, a corruption-free society has many benefits, which include faster and quality economic growth that leads to creation of employment, improved living standards and lower poverty levels, increased investor confidence, a boost in education standards, above all, peace and stability in the country.
There are people who see everything they do in terms of what is in it for me. And my answer always is, you don't always have to have anything for you in it. It can only be for public sake or for others' sake or for service sake. But that's a big issue, this issue of governance. where people want to extract from it. Because if it was only skills, it would be not as serious. And because when you train people, then you change the skills. But sometimes things can still go wrong, not because people don't have skills, but because people choose the wrong things.
The problematic areas of corruption in the education sector, according to TI Kenya, include tendering, procurement and supplies, hiring and promotion of staff, management of institutional resources and facilities, student enrollment, poor accounting of funds, remedial tuition, school trips where students are overcharged.
Good morning. Have a seat.
Thank you very much.
What can I do for you?
My name is Jen.
Yes, Jane.
I've come here to complain because I've learned from reliable sources
Yes.
that the TEDA committee denied me the supply of the multipurpose detergent, which I've been doing for the school for very many years.
Yes, Jane.
And there is no one who has ever complained about the quality of my detergents.
Yes.
And therefore, to me, there was no justification.
I would like to thank you for having supplied the school with the detergent, but I would also like to to let you know that there are new regulations, new rules, whereby we have a tender committee comprising of teachers, and when they open the tender box, all the people who had tendered attend that meeting, and when they make the decision, the best bidder wins. But I'm happy you've done that. You've been supplying the detergent, but that does not close you out. Next
Madam
year we will
Principal.
still advertise.
Madam Principal,
Yes.
kindly listen to my case.
I'm listening, Jane.
I know that with the powers bestowed on you
Yes.
and on this office that
Yes.
you are currently occupying, you can be able to reverse the decision.
Oh yes, Jane. As I've already told you, rules and regulations.
I understand the rules of the game.
Yes.
I'm ready to abide,
Yes.
and if you don't want us to discuss through this case in your office, we can do it elsewhere, maybe over a cup of tea.
Thank you, Jane. I'm happy to hear you understand the rules and regulations. And I don't think a cup of tea is part of the rules and regulations. For now, let us abide with the rules and the regulations. But we'll put it in the papers next year. You will tender, and the tender committee will do its work. Thank you very much.
It's all right, I understand. But I want to leave you with my business card,
This is okay, Jane.
just in case you change your mind
This is okay.
and you agree to call me so
This
that
is
we
okay.
discuss
Yeah.
about that case
Okay.
over a cup of.
As we follow the rules and regulations, Jane, if anything comes up, look at the papers next year and we'll give you will apply. And then we see whether you can supply. Thank you very much.
Madam Principal.
Okay, have a good day.
Okay.
Basic skills in financial management start with the critical areas of cash management and bookkeeping, which should be done according to certain financial controls to ensure integrity in the bookkeeping process.
Our work as the Kenya Education Staff Institute is to build the capacities of education managers in critical areas such as financial management and good governance. So our contribution towards improving financial management in schools is basically to build their capacities. We also contribute to capacity building in emerging issues, for instance, performance management, cross-cutting issues such as HIV, gender, environment in management. Of course, we are also doing induction programs for education managers so that we prepare them as they leave. Most of the teachers who are promoted to become head teachers, they need to be inducted. The goal is to promote the highest standards of integrity and good governance in our education institutions, and to equip, empower these education managers, particularly at the school level, to manage their resources as effectively as possible so that they can improve public service delivery. We are targeting all all heads of institutions in both primary and secondary schools.
Good financial management practices starts with coming up with a plan that acts as a guidepost to future desirable results. A good plan should show both development and long-term operational objectives and should include strategies and personnel responsible for seeing the achievements.
Education remains the most important tool for the empowerment of the poor. It is therefore prudent to invest CDF and LATIF funds for the expansion of education facilities, especially in areas with high levels of poverty.
I also call upon school managers and other key players, including education officials, to ensure that public funds, whether disbursed by government or collected from parents, are managed prudently.
A financial budget is a blueprint to a good financial plan. A good budget should be inclusive and all stakeholders need to be consulted. It is important to note that development budgets may need approval by Board of Governors, district education boards, and sometimes Ministry of Education headquarters.
When we are releasing money now to schools, we are actually coming up with a new system of putting the list on the website so that everybody knows that school A got so much, school B got so much. So we publicize the list. We tell the public and we put it on our website. In fact, through some donor support, we might actually be able to get money even to print them, print it in our dailies. Yeah. These are some of the ways that we are trying to use to promote transparency and deal with corruption in the ministry. And because the ministerial committee is really limited more to what is going on here. But also we have improved, for example, financial management systems.
Once the budget is complete, the procurement process begins. The procurement process involves selecting and engaging suppliers for goods, services, or works. All these should be done in a manner that should give the true value for money spent to the institutions involved.
What we are saying is that in some cases we have seen that the prices are inflated, and I think this is the weakness of any procurement law, in that you say we need three quotations. People will go out there and they get you quotations which reflect inflated prices. And I think some of our tender committees of procurement officers have tended to hide behind that, because you said that this pen is costing 10 shillings and we need 3 quotations each for 3 quotations for that particular item, then you will get 3 quotations, yes, but the prices on those quotations are beyond what you can even see in the markets.
A good procurement process should include the following aspects: formation of the tender and procurement committees, preparation of annual procurement plans, approval of lists of potential suppliers, invitation of quotations, opening of tenders. Once the opening of tenders is complete, a technical and financial evaluation should be done and the tenders awarded. It is imperative that the goods, services, and works be supervised once the delivery is done. Proper records should be kept for easy evaluation and auditing. The Education Act stipulates that all education institutions receiving public funds should be audited by the Audit Unit of the Ministry of Education.
We have assessments in between the year. These assessments will assist us to know what problems maybe our institutions are facing. And at that stage, we also assist the principals or the accounts clerks on the ways of management, especially in finances, because that's our area. The other area we also assist in is once we've noted that there are problems in a particular area, we have given the leeway to the principals and even the accounts clerks who manage our funds to talk to our field officers so that they can be enlightened on those particular areas, maybe where there are deviations.
Failing to submit books of accounts is a serious offense and is punishable as provided for by the Code of Regulation. It is important to note that strong administrative controls and ethical attitude in managing education institutions' finances therefore remains the foundation of success in all education institutions. Over time, the government of Kenya, in an effort to fight corruption, has instituted various initiatives which include parliamentary legislations and policy reforms.
And we have therefore given civic education its pride of place through engagement with the civil society, through engagement with schools, through engagement with public enterprises and private enterprises. We believe that that is a major contribution in the struggle and the fight against corruption. The other thing that we think is important and which we have given a pride of place is prevention. Prevention is better than cure. And it is true, it is a commonsensical thing, but if we could create an environment which is hostile to the conduct of activities which is inimical to the society, which leads to corruption, then the society would be the richer.
In an effort to create a corruption-free environment, and more so in the education sector, the government, through the Public Officers Ethics Act of 2003, has put in place the following policy reforms: introduction of a professional performance-driven results, merit in education sector enrollment, recruitment and promotion, enhancement and improvement of transparency and accountability, the abolition of Harambee in education institutions, the stoppage of public land grabbing, especially meant for schools and colleges, open working space in public offices in order to reduce chances of secrecy, the establishment of commissions of inquiry to probe past economic wrongs. According to the Anti-Corruption and Economics Act 2003, in order to prevent corruption, it is necessary to make corruption an expensive exercise, high risk and low gain venture. By law, any person found guilty of corruption offences or economic crimes shall be liable to a fine not exceeding 1 million shillings or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 10 years or to both the fine and jail term. Suspensions from duty or sacking of involved individual are also punitive measures for corruption cases.
But a principle, how much did we save when we abandoned the Isuzu project?
Oh, we didn't make much. I seem to agree with my brother. Isuzu bus cannot cost the same amount with the Leyland. What was the need of abandoning? What was the need of changing the area plan? Well, remember, we are the ones to protect you from the parents.
Well, if you have all those doubts you are having, you can ask Madam Kolala. She's here.
That's true, my dear brothers.
Now, we agreed that no teacher should ever attend our meetings. Is it because she is your sister, your sister?
No, not like that. Madam Kulala is now the acting deputy. You know that teacher, Mr. Hasubui, resigned after we realized that the gentleman knew so much about this project.
How much did we make after giving out the tenders?
No, we only managed to make 200,000 shillings.
Only 200,000 shillings? You have to do something with the principal.
Okay, gentlemen. If you insist, the way you are insisting, let's do it this way. I shall add you 2 cows each.
2 cows? That's slightly better.
Yeah, a bit
this
better.
This sounds more better.
Yes.
Okay, just a moment. Hello? Yes? The school bus has been involved in an accident.
Accident?
Yes? You are saying the check unit is there. I hope they have not seen the jerry cans. No, the bus was not carrying any illegal cargo.
Illegal cargo?
Those things belong to the school.
What's this? Now, is illegal cargo. What does that mean? If they are stopped.
Okay, gentlemen, excuse me. I think we might need to continue with this on another day, because whatever has come up is a bit serious.
But what is this we are hearing?
Another day.
Mr. Principal, our new bus. Our new bus, it's...
Okay, excuse me.
It has broken down. It has broken down.
Just a moment. Who are you?
I'm a parent.
Wait,
I'm a parent, sir.
Just a moment. Have you seen the bus?
Sir, this is important.
No,
listen
just,
to this.
Just go and
our new
bus.
Our new bus.
Mama, come out, cool
Listen,
down.
listen, Mr. Chairman. Listen, Mr. Chairman. Our new bus has broken down, and do you know what it is ferrying? Sir, do you know what it is ferrying? It is ferrying crates and crates of beer.
Yeah.
And yes, sir. And remember the other time our children had to go for music festivals using a matatu. But our new bus is ferrying beer.
Cool down.
I think I've got to go to the police. I've got to go to the police.
When a principal, you have to carry the cross.
Carry your cross.
It is too much.
According to the Privatization Commission of Kenya 2008-2009, every institution, public or private, must have a corruption prevention committee whose responsibility will be to formulate the following structures for eliminating corruption: corruption prevention policy, corruption prevention plan, the code of conduct, integrity assurance officers.
The challenges of governance in education, we disconnect in terms of information, and then you have weak management systems because of capacity issues and also issues of integrity. And then the third thing I feel is that what we call the disconnects between there's not a clear flow between the ministry headquarters and the middle level down to the school. You have also the challenges of supervision, weak capacities of people on the ground.
The people appointed to this position may not get adequate training. Yeah, that at times you are appointed without being well prepared, so you learn on the job, and I think to me that's a major challenge. The government must take training seriously, capacity building and education seriously, and if they are ready to spend billions in salaries, billions in the school, free secondary education, free primary education, I think spending some extra more in training so that this money, they can get value for money, I think to me is something that they must go for. Because what's happening right now, the challenges, the wastage and everything is simply because we have not put in enough on capacity building and on training. We should be able to ensure that we prepare people for management positions. Identify first, train, and then assign the duty.
When teachers are promoted to become heads of institutions, they need to be prepared, empowered, and equipped with the tools to manage their schools. So KESI comes in as the capacity builder so that we give them the tools and the skills to manage these institutions.
My advice to my colleagues is that education is really a service industry, and we are in this sector to support Kenyans, to bring up a new generation of leaders. And we have a golden opportunity to ensure that we instill the right values to these young kids. We train them to be patriotic to this country. We tell them that it is honorable to earn a decent, honest life, and that hard work pays. Therefore, all virtue of work and hard work, that it is honorable to earn a honest life.
A head teacher actually must be a teacher. And to have been trained as a teacher, you didn't go there because of the money in it. You went there because there is a job to be done. And you must have understood what it entails to get into teaching. And you knew you will not be drinking carelessly wherever you are as a teacher. Leave alone the head. Yes. You will know that your responsibility is not dealing with the papers and files. It is not somewhere where you make a mistake and rub it out. You are dealing with human beings. These human beings come to you at a tender age, and you see them progressively grow and develop to normal human beings. and even adults, mothers and fathers. And that is a heavy responsibility. And therefore, it means that to begin with, once you choose to be a teacher, you must be able to identify yourself with what it is that makes the best teacher. After that, obviously, is after proving that you are a good teacher, that you are considered to be a head teacher. However, when you are dealing with numbers and when you are dealing with personalities, you might get some people who don't really seem to understand what the role they have gotten into.
KESI, as Kenya Education Staff Institute, as the agency that is responsible for capacity building of staff in education to deal with competence by creating human resource in education, managers that are able to understand financial, bookkeeping, financial management, very simple, basic things, issues of leadership, strategic leadership, being able to see leadership as an empowerment, and issues of teamwork, where you don't have a head teacher or a BOG that thinks that they are the beginning and the alpha and omega, they are everything, but they see themselves as part of a system that they must mobilize, so that leaders begin to see themselves as mobilizers, facilitators, not autocratic, authoritative, only directing and directing.
All public offices are required to formulate a corruption prevention policy in order to effectively fight corruption. The policy should state the organization's or the institution's position on corruption, set specific aims and objectives, draw together existing policies and procedures that relate to corruption prevention, outline where further work needs to be done to minimize corruption risks. In order to effectively fight corruption, all public institutions are required to formulate and implement a corruption prevention plan, CPP, that carries out corruption risk assessments and identify loopholes in management systems and practices that facilitate corruption and recommend ways of sealing them. Following the enactment of the Public Officers Ethics Act 2003, all public institutions are expected to develop specific codes of conduct and ethics for their employees to ensure the staff is committed in the discharge of duties. Finally, each public institution should train integrity assurance officers who will be charged with offering technical guidance to the management on the implementation of anti-corruption programs and carry out sensitization workshops. The training is done in consultation with Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission (KESI) and the Ministry of Public Service, as well as other stakeholders. With appropriate corruption-fighting mechanism in place, some learning institutions have already successfully taken good governance and integrity to the next level. They have succeeded where many did not, and they are a good example to others. These successes are attributed to the exercise of transparency and accountability in relation to finances, successful self-regulatory in management and prevention of internal and external corruption opportunities in institutions, encouraging by nurturing well a corruption-free culture through awareness creation.
My advice to education managers is to remember that you are entrusted with public resources. You are therefore required to uphold integrity, to be accountable, to be transparent, and exercise good governance. To the teachers and education personnel is that the Kenya Education Staff Institute will continue to offer capacity building services to continue to empower you so that you can continually improve education management for the betterment of public service delivery in our schools.
What I want to tell all the school managers, you are doing a very important job in the country. You are our CEOs, whether you are in charge of a primary school or in charge of a secondary school, you are in charge of that station. And it is very, very important that you own that responsibility. You take it personally. You can hold yourself to account, and you take it as the biggest single national duty you've ever held. If you run a primary school and you do it so successfully, or a secondary school, you have done a huge national duty. And it is not what sanctions we can apply on you. It is not how much we are checking on you. We are relying entirely on your integrity, professional calling, and that your biggest reward in that job is that you can say, when you were there, things were different, and that you took that school to another level, and that that community was better off because of you. We do know that many of you face a lot of challenges, and it is the commitment of the ministry and my office to work with you to make sure that we can give you fast-track training. Every head teacher, primary or secondary, or even nursery center, early childhood center, can competently manage the limited resources you have. We also want you to be innovative, be creative, use local resources that you have in a more creative way, because when you do that, even what we give you, even though it may not be enough, you can go one more step forward. Our goal is to make sure that the education sector in Kenya is vibrant, is of high quality, and is producing the human resource that this country needs to move forward in this 21st century. If we are going to be competitive, all that we really need to do is to produce human capital that is competitive. And the place where that happens is in the school. So guys, we are counting on you.
If we could use even 50% of the funds that are allocated to education in a proper and in an efficient way, the quality of education in this country would increase and improve in an exponential way. And the time is now. The teachers must ask themselves, are they serving their country well? They must ask themselves, are they serving the next generation well? They must ask themselves, are they custodians of the future, because they are the ones who have been charged with the task of preparing the next generation. And how best to show it than to utilize the funds in their hands in a proper manner, in an efficient manner, in a honest manner, in a manner that gives best value for money? This is the question. And that is a very personal question. You can account without being accountable. But we want people who are account and they are accountable. And when we have that, Africa and Kenya will be the richer. We'll no longer be called the third world. We are the third world because many of us behave in a manner that is not designed to benefit our countries. We are the third world because we are in the business of undermining our countries on a daily basis. We are the third world because we do third-rate things, because we privatize that which is public. We are the third world because we have allowed our minds to roam in the arena of primitive accumulation rather than selfless service for the sake of our people. We are the third world because we want to be the third world. The day we decide to do the right things, particularly in the critical arena of the school environment, Africa will never be the same again. My plea to the teachers, go out there and do that which is right. The Bible is still right, that you will still not die hungry when you do the right thing. The Quran is still right, that is right to bend for that which is under the bed. The Hindu Gita is still right, that there is no way to sincerity. Sincerity is the way. Societies are changed by minds and hearts. The Europeans did not come here with the buildings that we now see. They came walking, but all of it was in the mind. Luther King is right. The mind is the standard of the man, and education affects it either positively or negatively.
According to Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, fighting corruption in the education sector starts with us as Kenyan citizens, and it is the responsibility of all of us to join hands in fighting this vice in the following ways. Respect and protect public property to ensure that the resources entrusted to us are used to develop the country. We should avoid engaging in corruption, for example, by not giving or receiving a bribe or falsifying a claim. Be a role model, as this will have attitudinal change to those working with us and or those who have entrusted resources to us. We must appreciate and reward hard work, honesty, and trustworthiness. We should teach children the virtues of honesty, hard work, integrity, and self-discipline. We have to develop interest in national issues. We should refuse to be pressurized to act irregularly and unlawfully. We have to talk to everyone about the evils of corruption. We should report cases of corruption practices to the state organs tasked to deal with corruption. For example, the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, KESI. We must also give advice, direction, and suggestions on how to fight corruption to the management at your place of work.